Absolutely. All right. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Kyle Carlson of USA
Good evening.
BMX Freestyle here. First of all, I've been wanting to tell you for a month now how good you look lately. Yes, exactly.
Handsomest man in the game. Handsomest man in the game. Don't look into this. Thank you.
Yeah, dude. I follow like everything you did at Vital, and every time you showed up on camera, I mean, you could see that you were losing weight and getting more in shape, and it's awesome. Um, that being said, the reason why we're here tonight is because the USA BMX Freestyle Series first event went down this past weekend in Tucson, Arizona. You were there. And before we get into talking about USA BMX and all of that, you mentioned talking about Vital, and I know that people are going to ask. So can we get the 2 minute rundown of what you are able to say about Vital, so that we have the just so you know and don't have to ask out of the way?
Absolutely. It was not a negative experience at all. Those guys, Brad and Todd, who have Vital, are two of the best dudes I've met in my entire life. And I'm incredibly fortunate that when I was 18, 19 years old, I was getting mentored by those guys and Mark Pelosi and learning from them. And honestly, we went through a lot of ups and downs with those guys. Those guys always did right by me, and in my opinion, did right by everybody that worked under me, did right for the sport. Fast forward all these years later, and the mountain bike and the motocross websites really, really, really took off. They were just really crushing it. When BMX was kind of just a one-man team, kind of just me. And I was kind of getting burned out. I think there was some burnout on their end as well, and it was hard for me to get resources when I needed them. It was hard for me to get the web guy to come help me because he's tied up doing something on the motocross website, and it caused some frustrations on my end. And seriously, nothing negative at all, but we were just kind of bouncing ideas one day, and I was kind of more or less saying I'm about checked out, and Brad McDonald said, more or less, what do you think about selling it? And I said, hey, whatever you want to do, I back it 100%. I'll see you through to the end. You guys have always done right by me. I'll do right by you. And realistically, to be completely honest, it was one of those things where I don't know if this thing's going to sell. I don't know anything about selling websites, but I was kind of like selling a BMX website in 2021. I have no idea. And literally like a couple months later, I kind of had an expiration date. I told Brad I was gone at a certain date. Brad said, cool, we'll try to sell it by then. And a buyer came through, and all that happened. And meanwhile, I kind of had some irons in the fire with USA BMX initially before this even took off. I kind of was doing a little bit over there and really happy with it. We connected on a lot of things. So I kind of had one foot in the door over there, but nothing was formally done. I don't think I did anything shady, and if so, I apologize. But no, so I was pretty much committed. Buyer came along, wanted the website, and kind of just did a smooth transition. I did my best to help out, and we wrapped it. So speaking for where it sits now, there is a new owner. It is a non-industry person. I don't know what the plan is. I have nothing to do with it, haven't had anything to do with it since October, November, something like that. I do know that they can only use the Vital BMX name for a limited time. So I believe they were supposed to come up with kind of a new URL, which to the best of my knowledge hasn't happened. This could be happening behind the scenes because Vital Motocross and Vital Mountain Bike are still the parent company. They're still under Vital Media Network. So with that being said, you type in Vital BMX for the next, I think, 3 years, it's going to go to the new website. But as far as calling it Vital BMX, that name's going to be dead in a few months here. So I don't know all the details there. And realistically, it's not really my story to tell. It's kind of Brad McDonald's story to tell, but nothing negative on my end. Hell of a run. I had a great time. I think so highly of those guys over there, and couldn't say a bad thing about the experience or where we are today. So if there's any specifics, feel free to ask. But I mean, there's.
I think that just about covers it. And like I told you earlier, I honestly wasn't even going to bring up Vital at all in this. And then you said it. And I'm like, well, I guess maybe it would be good to do the quick rundown so people just know.
Yep.
So that being said, you've been working with USA BMX Freestyler, getting that iron in the fire while you were kind of thinking about the transition outward. And now you're fully involved, and the first contest has gone down. So what exactly are you doing there?
Kind of just hanging out until they kick me out.
Tight.
One of those.
Tony's not gonna kick you out.
No, so a while back, I kind of Tony as a friend. Tony, funny story, I believe is the first guy that ever wrote me a paycheck to do anything in BMX. So when he was at Haro and I was like 18 years old. So Tony and I go way back, and I love Tony, and Tony's had my back through so many things, and I really appreciate that. And anyways, when he was on board here and kind of kicking off this series, he asked me to come check it out kind of just as a friend. And I think I missed a couple of them, but finally, it might have been the Arizona one last year. I popped into one, and I was like, man, this is really cool. And at the same event, I connected with Shane Fernandez, who's the president. And Shane's one of those guys. I told him this story, so I hope he doesn't mind I share it publicly. I'm like, this dude's going to be a problem. He says all the right things, out of industry, real, kind of fast talking, happy dude. And I'm like, cool. This is the dude we see come into BMX, tell him he's going to fix everything. And then 2 months later sees he can't make $10 million and he's out, And Shane was super cool, but I'm always in the back of my mind because I'm a pessimistic dude. Anyway, got to know Shane really well, and Shane's not that dude at all. Shane's awesome. Shane's done right by me 100% of the time, and I can't say anything but good things about the guy, and I'm really excited to work from and learn from the guy. And anyways, the more I got to talk to those guys, we all share a lot of similar ideas. They're interested in growing freestyle. That's something that I'm interested in. This series is one outlet they're doing it through, and I'm excited about that as well. And so as far as what I'm bringing to the table is really just kind of a brain full of ideas is how I feel. Everything from how BMX is portrayed both at the events and through USA BMX as a whole. We're going to be doing some content. A lot of things are in the works here. I think you got a little taste of that with this Tucson event where, I brought out Dan Foley, who's my dude. I bring out Dan whenever I can, and it's like to have him helping out with this stuff as well. And Dan and I were kind of handling all the content and social media stuff from this first event. Now, I think anybody watching at home, if they were paying attention to the Instagram and all the content that was coming up, was significantly better than anything they've done in the past. So what I'm kind of trying to do, if those guys run a great event, I'm trying to make it look as cool as it is to the outside person. And try to kind of be that bridge between what they're doing and core BMX. I'm fortunate to know a lot of people, a lot of brands, a lot of the pro riders are some of my best friends, so I just really want to have that presence there and that support there. And, I want to call Dennis Enter and say, hey, come out to the event and hang out. And he'll do it. I can make that phone call. You know what I mean? So just being able to bring more aspects like that, just kind of grow BMX as a whole, and just kind of hopefully give these amateurs a path to the next level. That was kind of a run-on answer.
It was perfect, though.
Anyways, a lot of content-driven stuff, and realistically, it's kind of a small crew, so we all kind of do a lot of things. So giving my input, my expertise when applicable, and so far so good. They're great bunch of dudes, and they've listened to me and dealt with all my nonsense for this long. So hopefully it keeps going that way.
No one's given more nonsense than Tony. But I'll be totally honest, though. Like, I'm really glad that you ended up in the position that you're in instead of me ending up in some position, because they asked me to do media and wrote in the social media and stuff, and I just didn't feel like the right person and it wasn't quite the right thing. So the fact that you came in, you're like the perfect person for what they're trying to like portray and do.
I hope so, man. And I've at Vital, I was always kind of a one-man team, and it's cool being over here because there's actually a support system. There's a group of guys, smart, competent human beings that are working towards making BMX better, and they've given me the tools I feel like I need to succeed, So it's going to be a long road, but I feel like, with Shane's support and with Tony's backing, and this crew it's a solid crew, man. I feel good about it, and I've worked in a lot of different situations, both in and out of BMX, and I really feel like these guys are going all in and really going to make things happen.
Yeah, I mean, for the sake of what you said about Shane, I'll just give my quick thing about Shane. He hit me up before any of this, and when he was getting input from people on the idea of doing this series, and then we did that live stream announcing it. And in all of my conversation with Shane leading up into that live stream thing that we did announcing the whole series, I had no idea he was the president of USA BMX. I literally had no idea. It was like, I just thought I was talking to some dude that was there and that he was trying to make this thing happen. And then he introduces himself when we do that stream, and I'm like, whoa, like, I had no idea. And then every single time that I've been to one of these events since, it's just been the same. Just, he's psyched to be there, psyched on BMX, and psyched to just try and help in the way that they can.
No, Shane's great. And, if I could give one complaint, it's that he gets a little bit too excited. Like, he freaked out when I introduced him to Mark Losi. He's literally a BMX fan, which is awesome, But yeah. Shane is this fun, happy-go-lucky guy at the event. He's putting up banners and taking them down. He's doing all the dirty work. But then when it comes down to talking business, that dude's very, very, very smart. And he's skilled and educated in ways that are rare in the BMX circle, which is why Shane is, in my opinion, from my experience with the guy, an incredible tool for us to reach outside of the standard BMX bubble. I think Shane really brings a lot to the table that I'm excited I can deal with all this madness in the BMX world while Shane can go put on a nice shirt and have dinner with billionaires, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, in all honesty, too, that's like kind of what I feel like we need to take this kind of thing to the next level. Like, use what we can and what we're building to grow it even more. Anyway,
You know, it's kind of a bit more talking about myself because that's my favorite subject.
yeah,
You know, I felt like for a long time in my life, I got a little bit disconnected from the amateur side of BMX just because everything else I was doing, I was at pro events, I was covering pro riders. You kind of, it's weird, but I would spend more time with Daniel Dares and Logan Martin than I would with the kids riding the local park 5 minutes from my house. You know, so I kind of almost lost touch of that side of things. And, you know, I kind of started coming around, you know, and a conversation Scotty Kramer and I had kind of opened my eyes where Scotty was kind of saying a similar thing. And we're both kind of like, man, there's not a lot of opportunities for up and coming riders. And, you know, I haven't really talked about this publicly and there's not a whole lot to talk about, but Scotty and I basically had an amateur series we were going to launch.
Wow.
We basically had, I flew to New Jersey. We got, you know, a lot of stuff put together and I was really excited about what we had together. And this is right when it was supposed to start basically the month that March 2020 when COVID existed.
Wow.
So Scotty and I had this plan, and I think it was a great plan, and it involved stops in the U.S., stops in Australia, stops in the U.K. It was going to be something really, I was really excited about it, but, you know, the world had other plans, you know, and, you know, so that happens, and then through COVID, I think we all kind of had to reinvent ourselves, you know, we're kind of stuck at home, and, you know, it's kind of everything just stopped, you know, and, you know, the team at USA BMX really managed to kind of launch the series both digitally and then with in-person events during COVID.
Yep.
While nothing else was happening, you know, and that said to me a lot about them, where they were, you know, they're all in, they're going to make this happen. You know, they're going to take the necessary precautions, but we need to have events. We need to get everybody together. We need to ride. We need to grow BMX, you know, and through that, a lot of people have already, you know, hopped on board and they're following the series and whatnot. And that's exciting to see, but I think there's so much more that can happen. And it gets me so fired up when I go to these events and I see the same riders traveling to all of them. There's these expert level riders that are maybe 2-3 years away from actually competing at the pro levels. And I see them with the fire in their eyes that pro riders have riding World Cups at these events. This is why they're riding hard. This is what they're doing. This is their path. Yep. That gets me excited, but that also makes me think, hey, 3 years ago, that same rider didn't have a path.
Right, exactly.
And, you know, and we're trying to grow this sport, and I think of how many riders have packed up and left because they don't have what they need. Now, the structure isn't for everybody. You know, this structure isn't for all the riders out there. A lot of riders are doing their own thing, and that's awesome. But realistically, a lot of riders want and need this path.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think it's a beautiful thing with the series that they've created, and I'm happy to be a part of it, that a rider can literally come in at, you know, at 8 years old and ride his first BMX contest, get judged by UCI judges. The 8-year-olds that rode this past weekend were judged by Van Homan.
Yeah. One of them's literally watching right now. Lil Huck.
Oh, yeah. What's up, dude? That dude's awesome.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? And so this rider can literally, in 10 years from now, there's a good chance Van's still going to be judging BMX events. You know what I mean? This guy could spend his whole career getting judged by these guys. But he could also go through the series, progress. You know, he wins this class, he moves up, he gets older, progress, move up. And along the way, you know, something I've leaned on some of the brands that are supporting the series for is I want more of these brands sponsoring riders in the series. They've been real receptive of it, but these riders can kind of be like, hey, I'm 8 years old and I'm doing good, and maybe this company sold me a bike for, maybe I got cost, you know, and then fast forward, you know, a little bit older, maybe I get a free bike. You know, fast forward a little bit, maybe they paid for me to go to the next stop. Yep. Fast forward, I'm turning pro and the brand's turning me pro. That's my path. I just literally went from the 8-year-old kid to a sponsored, paid pro rider traveling the world, competing at World Cups and possibly going to the Olympics.
And I think that point right there is exactly what USA BMX Freestyle needed, because when it first started, Shane had that vision of, I want to have this contest series to give the amateurs a path, and it was like, we have ideas of how we could kind of do it through like local groups and things, and we can connect the riders to these things, but there wasn't that brand connection like what you're talking about right now that you bring to the table that can literally take a 8-year-old rider from where he's at or where she's at, which is even cool part about this too. Anyone can participate, all the way up to the pro level if they stick with it. And obviously you said it's not for every single rider, but it's good to have this here for who it applies to.
And it's not for this type of rider, but anybody can go and have a good time. Even if you're hanging out, if you're riding but not competitive, Cole Volker, Dave Volker's son, who's an incredible rider, rode our stop in Tucson the other day. And I can't speak for Cole on this, but I watched Cole ride. I don't think he's that competitive. He's just out there killing it, but I don't think he's there to win. I think it's a thing to do. It's a fun thing to do, and he was, in my eyes, possibly the most impressive rider out there, but I don't think he's not at the foam pit trying to learn flip triple whips. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's different paths.
Yeah.
And another thing I'm trying to, this is kind of a funny one, but I don't know if you caught all the coverage, but we're putting cameras in kids' faces and making them talk.
Yep.
That's huge. If you get comfortable doing that when you're young, learn to be on the camera, learn to show your personality, and don't be afraid of these things. And as you get better, as you get older, that's a huge thing. I mean, just think, if you go and make the Olympics right now, 2024, you're in the Olympics, and you're the American, people want to sponsor you and put you on camera and stuff. If you can't talk, you just left more than half your money on the table. Straight up. And it's not all about money, but let's be real.
You gotta eat.
This is a limited window to make a living, and it sure would be nice to leave with a house and some money in the bank, and learning to talk on camera is a big one of those things. And that's one thing I'd like to, if these riders, in addition to riding well and progressing there, if they can learn to show their personalities and actually speak to a camera and speak clearly, get their ideas across in as few words as possible, which I'm doing a poor job of right now, I think that could be huge,
I absolutely agree. So speaking on this Tucson event, how did it go? It was the first stop.
I was psyched. We had a few hurdles. There is a large rocks and gem show in Tucson that makes hotels very expensive. Oh. So it sounds silly, but that bummed me out, crazy, just seeing the price tag. Like, oh man, like I think a lot of riders were driving back to Phoenix and whatnot. I hate to start with a negative there because that's the only bad thing I can say. Otherwise, we had about 70 riders. All the classes were stacked. Good riders. People were pumped. This is the first time to stack points for the 2020 season, and people care about these points. People have a goal here, and it was exciting because moving into this season, we have a handful of new sponsors as well because it went so well last year. Yep. It's nice to see the brands in the sport actually see that this matters. We have to feed this up and coming generation, So, going into the series this year, we have a few back. We have Hyper, Snafu, and ODI back again. Dance Comp as well, but we also free agent as well. But we also brought on Mongoose, we brought on Vans, we brought on Fit, we brought on Kink. So across the board, these are cool brands that actually want to support this. Yep. So this is kind of a lot of new life coming into this. Cool brands. We're trying to put cool content. Incredible riding. The guys at the highest level, man. The expert class is absolutely mind blowing. Yep. Between Jared, who won, it's just this dude is. It's my first time. I think it's my first time seeing him ride in person, and he could be right there as far as riding in these pro events. Oh, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Like, he was incredibly impressive. Cole Volker blew my mind. There's twins from Parker, Arizona. The Bruno brothers, they're doing double flips and three flips. Those are legitimate savages, and these are up and coming guys that, like, I'm so psyched there's this platform for them to get on. Not to mention the young women, Kier, who won.
Sage.
She's doing 540s onto the box jump. Sage is awesome. Sage's whole family. Sage's dad's out there sending flares. Or little brothers.
He's amazing.
Class. Dude, the whole, watching Connor Stitt and Caden Cernius battle it out, like, those two kids are 11 and doing, Connor's doing flip-ups on the spine and Caden's doing 3 flips on the box.
Yep.
Like, the future's bright, man. So the event was awesome and just, really fires me up to see the pathway and to see what's to come. There were 5 events last year. We got 8 this year, a couple new spots. Just really kind of putting fuel on that fire, and just excited to see this hit the next level.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that this is something that people are going to be able to follow moving forward in a way that Chase and Tyler Bruno and I don't remember if Caden was there the first time, but Chase and Tyler Bruno were at the very first one that they had in Woodward East in 2020. After they did just the digital events, and to watch those guys progress, and then to see, I can't remember if it was Chase or Tyler who won the last stop at Woodward West last year, and when he did that double flip over the box for the first time, to see it go from they're finishing middle of the pack to him winning it in the next year is just, it's awesome, and something that we completely did not have before that.
No, for sure. And for those dudes in particular, not to make it a sad story, but they just lost their father, I believe, last week. So they showed up with some fire. They want to ride for their dad, and they both absolutely tear it up. And I know for a fact that they've been riding Daniel Sandoval's new setup a little bit. So those guys with that mentality, those dudes send it. But when they have something like Sandoval set up to ride on occasion, like those dudes are going to hit a very high level very quickly.
Right. So I did notice that there were some things that were new for this stop, and I'm assuming this year, in that they had the Mongoose. I think it was Mongoose who did the most creative rider of the day thing, and then Hyper had some other stuff as well where people just got money that they won, even if they might not have won the contest. They earned a prize.
Yeah. So basically, those two. There's a Mongoose Creative Rider of the Day award. There is a Hyper Rider of the Day award, and there's a Snafu Trick of the Day award. Now, these are all exclusive to the brands themselves. We work closely with the brands and try to figure out something that embodies what they're into. Mm-hmm. The Mongoose award kind of stemmed from thinking about Kevin Peraza. We think of all the events that Kevin Peraza rides, that Kevin Peraza might get 6th place, but he was the most entertaining guy to watch because of his weird creative lines and whatnot. So that award's kind of based on Kevin Peraza, and in turn, the winner gets Kevin Peraza's new signature frame. Cool thing about that is that's not even coming out for a few more months. So Steve, who won the Peraza frame there, is the only person in the world to have that frame other than Kevin Peraza.
Wow.
So that's kind of cool. And then on the Hyper end, the Hyper Rider of the Day is kind of just recognizing a rider that they were psyched on. It has nothing to do with if you rode the best. It's kind of like, did you battle a trick? Did you just, do one? Did you crash your whole run, but you just sent it? You just really made that good impression, kind of recognizing that guy. And for Snafu Trick of the Day, it's a similar deal with a trick. You might not have had the best run, you might not have won the contest, but did you do that trick that really stood out? And it's not about being the best of the day. This could be an 8-year-old doing his first backflip. That could be the trick of the day. So kind of up to those brands. We have the Hyper and Snafu guys picking their award. We have the Mongoose guys picking their award. So that's out of our hands, but we're psyched to have them.
I think that's even cooler that it's in those guys' hands, because then it's a totally separate thing that people could have a chance at winning and being a part of. And I think it was something that adds to this that wasn't previously there in the previous years, because I know that there was a couple people who I had heard from who were kind of like, they weren't in that, I want the points, I want the prestige, and I want to win through this series. They were kind of bummed that like they spent all this money to travel and do this thing, and then all they got from it was a plaque and the experience. So it was like, well, if there's a chance that you could win something from a bunch of the different companies involved, that's even cooler.
Well, first and foremost, those guys need to clean up their attitudes, have more fun. This goes back to when I was talking about Scotty Kramer and I building a contest series. Scotty and I's goal going into it was, there's going to be a winner, but it's not about winning. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We had a bunch of random awards and whatnot, and it was kind of more about just like, you can have a successful trip to this event and not be anywhere near the podium.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that's kind of coming to it with these awards. I'm excited to hear that you're psyched about them. And I'm hoping this breathes some fire into it, and I'd love to have some of these other brands, step up and want to do something similar. The more of these, the better. It's just, a matter of if they're going to throw down and make it happen, we'll make it happen.
Right. And I think part of it too, and what I explained to the one person I talked to about this, is that the first one, because it was about the very first one, that was the finals at Woodward East in 2020. Yep. At the end of the digital series, like I kind of explained, like, well, this is kind of a proof of concept, because this is the first time they ever did it. So they needed this one, and even last year's at that, to take to these brands and be like, look, we're doing this thing. It's pretty successful. People are excited about it. And I think it would be worth it for you to get involved now.
No, I completely agree. And it was awesome. Lee Ramsdale from Mongoose was out. Lee plans to go to all these events. He's planning on bringing some riders from Mongoose. Shane Goldsmith from... What's that?
I said Moeller was there.
Moeller was there, and I saw him from a distance and didn't get to say hi, so I hope he doesn't destroy me on a podcast or something. But I was psyched he was there. He supports, he supports Caden, and he supports Sage Thunstorm as well, I believe. Like he's out there backing these young riders, and Fit and S&M's always done an awesome job of having their ear to the ground with the younger riders. So it's cool to have Fit on as a sponsor as well. Right. So having Fit supporting it and having Moeller show up, something good has happened. I'm psyched on that. But as a whole, Shane Goldsmith's planning on coming to most of these and bringing a couple of the hyper guys. Lee's going to be out there with the Mongoose guys. Hopefully we'll get Sandoval and some of the free agent guys. But, people are going to be around watching these riders and, finding ways, to push them with their brands, which is what we want, whether it's through awards, relationships, just being there to give support to somebody on the deck, just, having these people care and show up is huge.
Right, absolutely. I mean, when I saw that Muller was there and then he made a post about it today, I commented on there, like, are you going to be at any of the ones further out this way? Because it's like, I think it's amazing to see that. And then to say, you brought up bringing out free agent riders and like Daniel Sandoval and hyper riders and these things. That is all the more reason that these will become more than just a contest event series. They're going to be like a destination for people to go to who just love BMX.
That's what I'm hoping for, and it's always, I look back at all the events I went to when I was younger, and there's some blurs from the event themselves, but then there's the nights just sitting around the hotel, hanging out, you know what I mean? And the road trips, a lot of sleeping on floors, a lot of sleeping on couches, like those memories, like, will last forever. I don't remember who won the contest, but I remember this crazy thing that happened on the way, and just anything that can kind of fuel. What I thought it was really cool when Van Homan and Brian Kaczynski did the Uncovered series a few years ago. Van gave out some creative awards, and I remember one award they did was a gas money award for whoever drove the furthest to get there.
Nice.
Things like that are so cool, and I think that what we're building here can hopefully, install some of those memories in this next generation. Kind of, here's a purpose. Come hang out. Even if you don't ride the event, come hang out. There's all the cities we're going to have cool parks around there. These aren't one-off places, like short of the Woodward parks, those are kind of in the middle of nowhere, but everywhere else, like, come have a good time, just come hang out. Like, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, man. And to talk to you about this now and hearing where things are at now, and to talk to Shane when I was out at Woodward West for the last one, and then to talk to him before it started, and to see the progression of things. I kind of talked to Shane about this when we were at West at the finals, that like they kind of were at the point that they originally wanted to be at last year. So now it's just everything that comes past is bonus, and it's even better, and they can continue to build it even more.
No, for sure. And I think another cool addition that we haven't touched on is the fact that a couple of these also feature pro events, feature UCI sanctioned C1 events. A, that's cool because C1 events are cool and pro events are cool, but B, I love that the younger riders that are competing get to see that firsthand. You kind of get to see where you stand. A, you get to interact with all the pro riders, which is always fun and exciting, but B, you get to really see straight up, like, can I hang with these dudes?
Yep.
So I think, that's a cool addition that even without that, I think this thing's a huge success and trending in the right direction. But with that, I think it's kind of a, one-stop thing, not to mention there's so few pro events and a lot of these countries around the world that are having them we can't go to right now. So.
Yep. Yeah, and you have people like Joe Nix, who was at the finals last year, competed in the amateur finals, and then stepped up after it was over to compete in the C1. And now you see somebody who's made the jump from the amateur series to the professional side.
There's a young man who kills it named Colin Ackerman, who won our one of our younger series overall last year, and he bumped up to expert this year, and he competed in Tucson, and he didn't make the podium, but he could hang. You know what I mean? And I think right then and there, that's just fire. Keeps you hungry.
Yeah, man, and I mean it's kind of similar. It's a similar lines to the Free Flow series and things like Dew Tour back in the day, when anyone could go and try and qualify for it and end up on the big stage with the pros eventually. Obviously, it's not as quick as Dew Tour when you go from being like the random guy who shows up to qualifying for the big event, but still, I think it gives people something to try and push forward with, like how Metro Jam and all the Dirty East contests of the past. Obviously, you can't fully compare these things because they're not the same at all, but they're kind of similar in their essence.
Yeah, and that's, back to the Scotty Kramer series that he and I were working on. That was kind of one of our big talking points was, you look to before our time, and there were AFA contests, and then there were CFB contests. CFB was initially an X Games qualifier. You know what I mean? Like, those went away, and then there was Free Flow series with Dew Tour. The Monster Army Recon Tour. Like, a lot of riders came up through these. And after the Recon Tour, Van did Uncovered, and it was a bit more of a core series and whatnot. But like, past few years, there just really hasn't been anything consistent for amateurs. Occasionally something pops up, but as far as any sort of consistency, kind of hasn't been much. So it's cool that there's just, something. We just need stuff happening, man. And if this isn't your thing, go throw a jam. We'll come, lean on us for support. We'll make it happen. Like, this is like, we just need cool stuff happening as much as we can. And that's just going to strengthen all of us.
I agree wholeheartedly. And when Free Flow Tour gets brought up, one of my buddies who happened to win the stop at the Flow in Columbus, and I remember him talking about how the people he was riding against in that were like people who are pros now. So this is a perfect example. Like, the kids who are riding in this now are the pros of the future.
Well, I look at a Free Flow because that was kind of my era, and a couple names that came out of that: Mike Spinner, Dennis Anderson, Kevin Corrali, Nick Bruce. Like, these guys that came out of this are like the dudes right now, So I think that, like, I guarantee people could say the exact same thing about the CFB contest, and I look at the recon tours, and a handful of riders came up through those, and it's just, there are legitimately, the proof is in the pudding. When these exist, they produce results. We just kind of need to keep it moving, and I'm really excited to see that next generation, and I'm excited to see this in 10 years when that 8-year-old kid is 18.
Yep. I'm excited for it too. So that being said, what do we have to look forward to with the future this year for this?
Well, we have 7 more events, and I'm literally going to read them off my phone so I don't do a bad job at forgetting them. So
I could pull up
next stop is Woodward West. Yeah, there you go. That'll be better for everybody.
You can read them too.
Next up, all right, we got Woodward West. Then we have Dodson Sports Park, which is that really awesome outdoor park in Texas, that Morgan Wade's local park. That's going to be a pro event also, which is super cool. I'm excited to get out there. I haven't been to that park, and it looks amazing. So Dodson in Longview, Texas. Then we're at Woodward East. Then we're at Cary, North Carolina. Then we're at Newburgh, Oregon. Now, Newburgh is an exciting one because this is a concrete park, and it's kind of a steezy, flowy concrete park to where we might see some different faces out there and might see a different podium. Be interesting to see who can throw down at this epic concrete park. That's outside of Portland, about 30 minutes. I've been to that park a handful of times. It's an awesome place, so I'm excited for that. After that, we are at Four Seasons in Milwaukee, which is a new one for the series. I've been to Four Seasons a handful of times. Awesome park, awesome city, awesome to get the Midwest loving there. There's always a ton of shredders out in that part of the world, and excited to see who comes out of that, and then wrapping up at Woodward East for a second time.
Yep. And I had everything on the screen there. So, I mean, if anybody's interested in this whatsoever, the details are on the website. USA BMX F and USA BMX Freestyle.com will take you there. I'm excited to make it out to a few of these events as well. I think I'm going to go to 4 of them. I talked to Tony the other day. Yeah. Nice. It's just awesome what they're doing, and to see it grow from the way that it has, it's amazing. And Shane has also not discounted, like, including other types of, like, riding too. He's,
I think that's kind of what we want, and there was some points of contention and some debates as to whether or not we do an event at a concrete park. Yeah. And, our thought process was, let's do it, like, worst case scenario, if you're the best wood rider in the world, then you struggle at concrete, your overall average should still carry you through. Mm-hmm. But let's be realistic. There's nothing cooler than riding everything, so.
I agree fully. So what's Tony's last name? I know him
D.
It's just D. How do you say it? I think he might be. Yeah, he's
D-E-G-O-L-L-A-D-O.
in the chat. I just got a comment saying Kyle is the most handsome man ever, from a Tony Degolato.
He's not wrong. Does he mean me or Baldock? Kyle Baldock?
Maybe he just means all Kyles.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. What else we got? Anything exciting in there? Are people mad?
No, people aren't mad at all. Let's see. Tim Ferguson, who's on the Quickie Mart freestyle team,
Tim's
was
awesome.
in there.
Tim's awesome.
Where there was a really good one at the beginning. Noah McBride of The Scene's Not Dead. If you've seen any of those, he said, Kyle, did you pull the rollback though?
No comment, but there might be a new podcast coming soon. So wait and see. We got some stuff in the works.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited for what you're bringing to the table. Huck's dad said, as a parent who knew nothing about BMX, this series and structure has helped me tremendously with Huck. It's always a fun event and really well run. Makes it so much easier for me, and the consistency makes Huck feel comfortable also.
That's awesome. No, and I think this may have been my first time seeing Huck ride. No, I saw Huck ride at Woodward East last year, but just seeing him ride and enjoy it and progress, and also seeing his family support him, like, that's awesome, man. Shout out to all the BMX parents out there. That's one thing that kind of comes from these events that's made me really excited, is kind of seeing the family aspect of BMX.
Yep.
And none of these parents are coach dads. None of them are yelling and being crazy on them. Even like, you look at a kid like Caden and a kid like Connor Stitt and the way they ride, you're like, that kid's probably getting some serious pressure. The dads are awesome. Their moms are awesome. Like, it's pretty cool to really just see that, like, I think freestyle breeds a different sort of vibe and a lot of positivity.
Yeah, when I met Connor's dad and mom, they're both the coolest people. Like, you never would, because they're so chill, you never would guess that they are the parents of this insane kid on a bike.
11-year-old savage.
Literally. And like, Huck's family is amazing too. And with last year at the finals, just seeing the way that Sage's parents interacted with her before her run made me want to talk to them. Then seeing her dad ride was like, whoa, I have to talk to them now.
It's an interesting dynamic, just seeing those kids' upbringing. Imagine having a father sending flares. You know what I mean? It's
Who
so
started
cool. And,
riding 3 years ago.
It's amazing. It's amazing. The dude's awesome too. Good vibes. Like, psyched to be out there. Like, people like that are like, it bums me out. I don't regret anything, but it bums me out that I've missed some of this for so long. You don't get this at the pro events. You know what I mean? Like, not a lot of parents. Everybody's kind of on their own, and it's awesome, but it's something different.
Yeah, and I mean, so look forward thinking here. How do you think this is going to impact BMX in a 5-year range?
I think it's going to just really give a more clear pathway to the top. I think it's going to keep more people on bikes because they kind of have something to do. People that want to compete, now they have a spot to compete. And if you want to get even deeper, I'd love to see the series continue growing. We went from 5 events to 8 events. I'd love to do more. We're touching most of the country. And, and I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but once the world opens up a little bit more, I'd love to do a couple overseas. Yeah. There are amateur riders everywhere looking for a path to the top, and it's so hard to find. I think of just go on Instagram and watch clips of the young riders in the UK, the young riders in Australia. You know what I mean?
Japan.
And if we're not able to do it overseas, I'd love to see somebody picking up the slack over there and doing something similar.
Yep.
Let's make this happen. I don't know if it's the cycling bodies trying to gear up the next generation for the Olympics, or it's just people that want to have some fun. But I'd love to see this worldwide, and I'd love to see all the amateurs around the world have the opportunity that we're creating for riders in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, do you think something like this could work on a street side of things? Because I know that most of the people that you hear who don't have positive thoughts about this kind of thing are usually street core riders.
It's hard to say because I think they're street core riders, but I think they're a bit more anti-organization. Yeah. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just don't think they flourish in an environment where you have a run.
Which is totally fine.
60 seconds. No, totally. Amongst street riders, there's kind of 2 different schools of street riding. A handful of riders transcend both, but there's the dudes that will go film an amazing video part, but when you throw them into the X Games, even in the street competition, it's not their wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I think at one of the last X Games I went to, I think Nathan Williams got last or second to last. Nathan Williams is probably the best street rider in the world.
He's up there, that's for sure, yeah.
As far as like filming video parts go and whatnot, it's not for everybody. So, I don't think, is it possible it could work in street? Yes, but I don't know if it would ever really be street, if you will. I think so much of that is just about being on your own, doing your own thing, and lacking that organization. Now, I think, without getting too far ahead of myself here, there could be other ways to flourish that, whether that be digital competitions with larger backing, or even, jams. If we could somehow do jams in cities that are kind of judged throughout the day, the sky's the limit with what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
We need to, stay in our lane and build as we go. But, we've had these conversations, and, street events aren't impossible. Dirt events aren't impossible. We've had all these conversations. We have the manpower and the resources, like, the stuff can happen.
Yep, and that's the awesome thing about Shane Fernandez and Tony D is that they are open to that fully, and if it makes sense, they are down to try it.
USA BMX as a whole. I had a conversation at the Tucson event with B.A. Anderson, whose family started USA BMX, obviously on the race side of things, and just seeing B.A. be psyched about it. And B.A.'s backed this thing from day zero. You know what I mean?
Wow.
B.A. wants to do this in freestyle. He wants to do it. He's tried, multiple times before, and he's literally put his money where his mouth is and made it happen. A lot of BMX riders have great ideas, but very few want to put their money where their mouth is, and USA BMX is doing it.
Yeah,
These events aren't cheap. Flying guys across the country, building the infrastructure, this is not cheap. And these guys are making it happen. And, love it or hate it. If you hate it, I hope you respond by making something happen different.
Yep.
Rather than just complaining. So.
Yep, and that was the alternative viewpoint I was going to give, is that the existence of this could spawn something else for the other segments of BMX if it doesn't end up happening through USA BMX Freestyle.
Which would be awesome. That's certainly nothing that we would frown upon.
Absolutely
would be like, hell yes,
not.
we got this over here. You guys got your thing over here. And there'd probably be ways we could work together. We have a lot of resources. We have a lot of manpower. We have a lot of smart people. There's probably ways we could work together.
Yeah, man, I fully agree with that. I did remember another question that was in the chat. It's a really good one. So my buddy Austin Lemley from West Virginia asks, what are the chances of USA BMX bringing back the KOD at select nationals?
I can't speak on that fully because it's not my wheelhouse, anything taking places at races. But I will say that I went to Grands last year. I've never been to Grands before. And we're talking about incorporating freestyle in some way in Grands. So that's nothing official yet. I don't know if it's going to be that. I don't know if it's going to be something else. But I would love to have a World Cup event at the Grands. Because it's such a BMX hub as it is. I don't know if that probably can't happen 2022. Maybe it can happen 2023. But I think at the Grands next year, I can't promise it, but I feel like we're going to have a freestyle presence at the Grands.
Just the fact that it's even on the radar, it just goes to show everything that we've been saying about this whole entire organization. It's not smoke and mirrors. It's not people blowing smoke up anybody's butt. It's real stuff, and the people behind it are truly passionate about BMX. That's why I'm involved, literally.
Yep. No, I think that especially the older I get, man, Dan Foley asked me the other day, he's like, how do you not get burned out on BMX stuff? And I had to think about it. And my response was, being sincere, I don't do anything I don't want to do. Mm-hmm. I have a couple irons in the fire outside of BMX and kind of, straight up, I don't need to be here to make a living. This is because I want to be here, know, and these guys match that energy and give me something I want to be a part of. You know what I mean? And that gets me excited, and as long as we can keep this being something that, mirrors that energy and everybody's here because they want to be here, it's just going to grow and get better and better.
Yeah, man. I'm so excited for it. That's literally that's Tony's justification for me even going to these things. You wanted to be there for the previous, let's keep that vibe. That's it.
And hopefully, hopefully a lot of people come and check them out this year that haven't yet. Industry people, pro riders, even just local riders, whatever. We got something for everybody. I was talking to my buddy Ryan Mills earlier. Ryan lives down the street from me. And I was telling Ryan, dude, you got to come to the next one and just ride in the old guy class. Ryan's 38 and still kills it. I'm like, come ride this thing. I know you're not really retired or anything, but come do this, Come be the gambler that we know you are.
Yeah, I think that's a good... Wait, who'd you say, Ryan what?
Ryan Mills?
Oh, okay. Because somebody in the chat just said something that his name was Ryan. Yeah, Ryan Mills. But I think...
The Ryan in the chat should come also.
Ryan Murphy, he said he's Team Goody manager. He said Chase Bruno modeled for that Dixon flannel homie is wearing.
We're both great looking guys.
What I was going to say, though, was the point that I would love to get across here even further is that anyone can come to these, even if you're not riding.
You can find a good time, man. Everybody's welcome. Come hang out, Just hang out, man. It's a bunch of riders, a bunch of people having fun. Pop in,
It's a good time.
Say what's up.
It's a really good time.
You're gonna enjoy it, and I get inspired seeing the next generation, and I get it. If you're not competing, maybe you're not gonna hang out all day. Pop in for an hour or two and then go ride the local park,
Yep. Yeah.
It's
Through being around BMX events for a long time, you find out when an event goes on like that, there's a whole lot of riding with a whole lot of awesome people that happens when the contest isn't happening, whether it's over or before it starts, whatever.
Yeah, no, kind of funny. I was looking through old photos on my phone the other day. Like when you press the top of it and it goes to the very end, and like some of my first ones are out with Dennis and Garrett filming some clips for the Nike video, and it was because we were at Dew Tour in Salt Lake and we pedaled our bikes up a big hill. And Garrett threed a really big set. I don't know. It's like his second to last clip in the Nike video was like literally finals happened. Then we pedaled up this hill and did that. Like all this stuff happens because people were there for a reason. Then if you love BMX, you're not going to just limit yourself. You're going to ride the whole time. You know?
Yep. All those stories about people being at contests and then going and riding until midnight or whatever outside of the contest.
Well, I mean, it's an excuse to get together. One more thing before I lose you here. I haven't mentioned this yet. We were going to do it in Tucson, but it didn't work out for a couple of reasons. But at a few of these events, Lee Ramsdale said he's flying out a couple days early and bringing a couple Mongoose riders and doing like a jam somewhere local. So a few of these are going to have like, come out a day early, ride with Kevin Peraza and Pat Casey, and then we're all going to go to the contest and hang out, and those guys will be around. But we're going to actually have a jam somewhere else with Mongoose throwing down for it. So
awesome.
Another cool addition. So
awesome. I think real quick too, I'd like to just let people know about the old guy class, because somebody said old guy stuff sounds awesome. What is it? Is it 40 plus?
So there's actually 2 now, and I don't want to say this incorrectly. This is more of a Tony D question.
Sorry.
But Tony D is not not very willing to give answers. He's a weird guy. So right now we have 15 through 30, and we have a 40 plus. That's not right at all. I don't remember what it is, but I can find that information.
It's on the Instagram, right?
And share it later. I thought it was, but then what I found didn't make sense. Tony, if you're still in the comments, can you tell Brant what's up?
It's okay. I'm gonna do another one of these too. After another one.
I believe it was a 30 plus class last year, but this year we're breaking it up to where there's a 30 plus class and a master's class. So there are 2 different classes for people over 30 now, which is why I'm confused.
Oh, I see here. There was one missing in the thing you were looking at. 31 through 39 men.
There you go. And there's also masters.
Yes. So there's that because a lot of the people who watch my stuff are older. And just to give a perfect example, one of the riders' dad or grandpa, the guy with the big mustache who rode at the finals last year,
J.W. Snyder?
That guy was amazing, and if he can do it, then there's anybody in this chat or watches this can do it that is old enough, obviously.
It's all for good fun. There's riders of all level there. You don't have to kill it. Just like it's cool to take part.
Yep. So that being said, is there anything else that we need to go over here?
No, man. Thanks for asking me to come on here and talk about this stuff. And thanks to everybody that came out to the last one. I hope to see a lot more people at the next few. And hit us with some feedback if you have it. I'm always psyched to hear it. Just make it realistic feedback. Don't call and say I need to give you $1 million because I'm not going to. Let's but let's keep it fun, man. I'm psyched. I like the way BMX is heading in this direction. Hopefully we can keep up this movement because I'm psyched and I think it's doing a lot of really good things.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you being willing to come on here, especially being that I hit you up literally like 3 hours before we're doing this. And you're like, hey, we'll do it tonight.
And to be fair, I'm about to go meet my buddy at the bar. So that was my out. So.
Well, there you go. Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it. And I'll see you soon.
Excited. Hey, thank you, Brant. And thank you for everything else you do, man. I know it's takes a lot of self-motivation to put all this together, and it's kind of it's a lot of work, and I appreciate what you do, and I know a lot of the riders out there do as well. So keep it up, and we definitely appreciate you.
Thank you. BMX is literally just my entire life.
Well, I won't tell your girlfriend this.
Oh, she knows. She's been around for 10 years.